I took a file and I filed, and then I filed some more. They recommend using a plastic card to apply the wood grain filler, but I had a brush, so that's what I used. Now, the manual really strongly suggests avoiding the top of the fret. It's just really easy to work with, and it does the job really well. And then for day 2, with the neck, I just added 2 more coats of lacquer. If you spray too much or too close, it pools. So you have to keep your distance, you have to go slow, you have to go even, and you have to go kind of light. Now, what I ended up doing was using the back side of the X-Acto knife to scrape off the lacquer. You can't use the front, it's too sharp and it will dig into the frets. These tuners were made for this headstock, so the bushings went in no problem. Then you just screw the tuners into the bushings, and then you put a little screw in the back, and easy peasy. By the end of the 2000 grit sandpaper, you have basically kind of a milky finish. And doing this is really simple. It's just 4 screws. Obviously, take your time. I drilled my holes. I was straight. I took my time. I was very cautious. To the volume pot. Then you run a wire from the second lug on the outside, I guess we'll call it, of the switch, to the 5th lug on the inside of the switch. Getting better. But it was also one of those things where you'd think it's done, you don't want to overdo it, so you restring the guitar, you tune it up, you play it for a little while, and then you go, maybe a little bit more. My takeaways from building a StewMac T-style guitar this week on Learning Curve. Hi, I'm Spencer Dobson. Thanks for watching Learning Curve. This week I want to talk about just some of the takeaways I have from building this sweet StewMac T-style guitar that I've been working on for the last couple of months. If you include the time it takes to let the finish cure, I bet it took about a month altogether for this thing to be from top to bottom. But there's little tweaks happening, and there will continue to be little tweaks happening probably for a while now. I keep making little adjustments to the nut. Right now, I feel like I finally have it perfect. When I play an E chord, the G string, the note stays right. It doesn't go out of tune. I switched out, I put in initially these Born pots, which I really like. I think they sound good. I think they have a nice taper, but they were just too big for the cavity. They just did not fit. So I bought, I think it's pronounced Music Lily, mini pots, and I'm hesitant to buy mini pots because I like Born pots. But the mini pots seem to be doing the job, and they fit way better in the cavity. So I had to swap out the pots because the guitar was routed for a humbucker in the neck, so I put one in. It originally came with 250K pots, but when you work with a humbucker, you want 500K pots. So anyway, now that I've got those pots in place, I think this is how it's going to be. I also swapped out the original knobs for some Strat knobs that I had sitting around because I thought they looked cool. You know, the reason I was using the Born pots even after they initially didn't fit is because, well, first of all, sometimes our older pots and they just send me the wrong things, and then you get frustrated, and then you go, well, I'll just use what I've got laying around. But sometimes you just and then you end up trying to force things to fit into places that they don't fit, which is never a good idea. So since I've replaced these pots, the buzz is gone. Now, I don't know if it was buzzing because the electronics were pushing up to the shielding in the cavity. That's entirely possible. I did take some of that rubber shrink tubing and cut it open and try and like add a layer of rubber in between the shielding and the electronics, and that seemed to help. But as of this moment, the buzz is completely gone. I don't know if it's going to stay that way, but that's where we're at now. So on a scale of easy peasy to I'm going to jump off a building, I would put this guitar at difficulty-wise. This guitar summoned every piece of guitar knowledge I had. Granted, there were parts of it that were really simple and really straightforward, but the neck in particular really pushed my, really questioned my knowledge and forced me to up my game. So if you know some stuff about like doing fret work, about working on nuts, about intonation, about setup, you're probably going to love this. If you've never done any of those things, either you're going to learn how to do them to do this, but like if I didn't have any knowledge of any of those things, what would have happened is I would have gotten to the neck on this guitar, and then I would have put it in a corner and just left it there, and eventually in 5 years throw it away at a move or something like that. Just be like, well, that didn't work out. But again, if you have some experience, this is a great time to up your game. This is a great time to use all of that knowledge. Or if you know how to build guitars and are trying to teach somebody how to build a guitar, this is a great way. It's probably a great way to do that. Like I said, I had a blast, but it was challenging. It wasn't. It didn't just. It's not Legos. It didn't just snap together. You really had to. You really had to know a thing or two to make it work, and that's cool. I like that. That's why it's fun. For me, I think the finishing was the funnest and the easiest and the least consequential part of it. I really had fun with the spray cans. I like the fact that if you screw it up, you can just do it again. I would definitely add a couple more coats of blonde if I was going to go back and do it again. I think it would have ended up a little bit darker, which would have been cool. There was a couple of big things I learned. First of all, take your time with sanding. Really check the grain. Slow down. Don't rush it. Figure out what you're looking for. I didn't blow through the sanding process, but I certainly could have taken more time with it. And if I had, I wouldn't, there's just flaws in the finish that wouldn't be there. I would also, you just have to up your spray paint game. It's a matter of consistency. It's a matter of speed. It's a matter of timing. And I think it's one of those things that the more you do it, the better you get at it. But this was my first time ever spray painting a guitar. And so it came out the way it came out. And I like the way it looks, but I just want everything to be good. You know what I mean? And again, that's the nice thing about the finish. It's inconsequential. I can just remove all of the finish tomorrow and start again if I want to. I'm not going to, but I could. I think if you've ever done graffiti, I think that knowledge would come in really handy when you're spray painting a guitar. I think you would just know how to handle a spray can better than I do. I also use stencils to get kind of a customized, to put that paisley on it, right? And I like the way it came out, but I think there's a way to make it really crisp and really dark without it getting all blotchy. I could get it crisp and blotchy, or I could get it slightly faded and not blotchy. I opted for not blotchy, but I want it crisp and not blotchy. Maybe that doesn't exist. We can all dream. Also, this wasn't the first time I've tried to get a gloss finish on a guitar. This is just the first time it worked. In fact, it worked so well that I went back and put a gloss finish on a previous guitar that I'd made, and now it's all shiny and stuff too. So that in and of itself is pretty awesome. Now, as far as putting the actual guitar together goes, that's really simple, to be honest with you. Drilling the holes in the neck was probably the hardest part, and that was pretty straightforward. I mean, it didn't take a whole lot of work to get it right. You know what I mean? It's a little scary because, again, it's one of those things that if you do it wrong, you're boned. But I found it pretty straightforward. Also, they make these necks specifically for each body, apparently. So they fit in really easily. You don't have to do a bunch of shims or like sand the neck or sand the neck pocket or any of that stuff that's terrible. It fits right in. You drill a couple holes, you put a clamp on it, you screw it, blah, it's fine. It's straightforward. And like putting in the bridge is a piece of cake. That's just a couple of screws. Putting in the original electronics is super easy. Putting in the original pickups is super easy. I made my life harder because I did some modifications, and I apologize for nothing. I really like the way it sounds. I really like the neck. I mean, they route it for a neck humbucker, and I wanted a neck humbucker, so there you go. I mean, why not? And I didn't use their pick guard because I wanted the fat Tele, so there you have it. But drilling the holes for the pick guard is super easy. You know, putting in the hardware is super easy. You know, the jack so far is just fine. I don't think I might replace it in the future if it gives me a problem. I like this. There's a kind of jack that I prefer, but you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The tuners work fine. You know, they seem like they're a little smushy, but they hold tune, and you turn the thing and it turns the other thing, and then the strings are tight. So, you know. So the neck was the intimidating part, and the difficult part, and the frustrating part, the challenging part. This is the first time I'd ever had to work on a nut. I did a lot of homework to make sure I didn't screw that up, and I know that you know, it's one of those things that if you do it wrong, you get to get a new nut. It's not the first time I've ever leveled frets and crowned frets, but it's the first time I was happy with the way it came out. You know, this got enough, I guess, fret leveling miles under my belt that they came out really good. And my crowning job I don't know if it's perfect, but it works. I'm happy with it. I feel really comfortable moving forward that now I kind of know what I'm doing on that front. So that's a big takeaway, you know, just being better at stuff like that. And being like, I'm not hesitant now to work on the necks of my other guitars. Because now I kind of know what to do. So that's cool. And I feel the same way about the nut. Now I don't know if I would start from scratch on a nut, but you know, if I have an issue, I feel like I can deal with it, or I can deal with it better. Certainly better than I could before. So that's cool. The truss rod too. You know, truss rods are pretty straightforward. You turn it one way, you turn it the other. But working on this guitar, you know, it just, you watched it come to life. You know, the first time I put strings on this thing, it was just a fretboard of clunks and buzzes. And I'm like, oh man, we're screwed. And I learned a lot about, you know, the way strings interact with the fretboard, and the way strings interact when you bend them, and the different angles that are involved, and all the geometry that you're taking into account. It was really enlightening. And again, you know, awesome. I'm now I can deal with other things easier because I figured out how to make that thing work, right? Now, as far as the final product goes, this guitar is crazy light, and that's great. The wood, when you push on it, like, you can dent it really easily, right? Like when I push on it with my fingernail, it will leave a little dent. And I feel like there's going to be a period where that means there'll be like cool relicking kind of early on, but I'm not sure how long this guitar will be a guitar. If it does turn out that the body, you know, is just like a fancy kind of balsa wood, I think I would just replace the body and keep all the stuff, because I really like the neck. And I really like the electronics, and I'm really happy with it. But obviously, if the body falls apart, that seems like an issue. That seems like a problem. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It's, even if it does fall apart, which I hope it doesn't, still worth it. Just for the learning part. You know what I mean? Oh, did I mention the intonation was perfect? Like right out of the box. I've tweaked it so mildly once I adjusted the truss rod, but it's really spot on. Yeah, the bridge is fine. The tuners are fine. The nut's good now. Now that I've got the frets leveled and polished, the neck's fantastic. All the electronics work really well. So all that stuff is great. Now, as I said earlier, I initially had a buzz, and I think it was because the electronics were pushing up against the shielding in the cavity, but the smaller pots took care of that problem. I also put in a 4-way switch, which I'm using instead of a push-pull pot, and I love it. So what I tend to use it for is I will lay down like a rhythm track on a loop, and then switch to the full humbucker and do a solo over that. Like, it's good for like a blues solo. You get that kind of bluesy dark tone out of it. And the middle position is also pretty awesome. And yeah, I think it's easier to wire than a push-pull pot, and I think it's just more convenient than a push-pull pot. In my humble opinion, that could change. Okay, so here's what it sounds like. So if you're thinking about building a kit guitar and have hit a wall, there's all the steps I went through to get to this final product. Hopefully they'll be useful for you. Also, I put my reference material in the description so you don't have to take my word for it. If you need to go deep dive on some aspect of this, hopefully I've given you the materials to help get you where you need to be. If you like these videos, please like them, please share them, please subscribe. My name is Spencer Dobson. Thank you for watching Learning Curve. Try to be nice to each other. We'll see you next time.